Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and a new Wolong video. With the release of the game, many people are playing for the first time and experiencing that it's actually quite a steep hill to climb. So much information is thrown at you all at once, it can be quite a lot to take in, and after quite a few hours of gameplay myself, there's definitely a lot of things I wish I had explained to me that I could take at a slower pace. So with that in mind, we're putting together this video of beginner tips to help you in your initial experience with Wolong. Before we jump into the real stuff, I just want to mention that at the flags where you can rest, you can travel, and this allows you to actually go to the other chapter, as you can see here, which allows you to do certain training, such as we have basic training and we have wizardry spell mastery or training for that. These will be unlocked at different levels, but basically when you reach the hub, you'll be able to train whenever you want. This is a really important feature because there are many different types of weapons with different movesets and abilities, and obviously the martial arts skills attached to them that you might want to test and train. First things first though, let's talk about the morale system, which I think is absolutely vital to understand. It is explained to you in the briefest, most minorest way during the initial level, where it tells you that, hey, there's like levels to each of the enemies, and the higher level, the more dangerous they are. But I think it's really important you understand how impactful this actually is. Not only does it make the enemies harder and you weaker or you stronger versus the enemy who's lower morale level to you, but it also can be affected by defeating leaders to lower the morale of nearby enemies, and your morale even affects what spells you're able to use at that time. You should basically imagine morale as actually quite a clever system in which you can choose how difficult things are going to be. The morale system basically puts you against morale level 0, 1, 2, and 3 enemies at the very beginning of every level. Then quickly it'll progress to level 5 things, 7, 8, 10, and so on until you reach around 20 and above. Each level is designed in a clever way to give you basically this massive shortcut very early on, where you're going to encounter kind of a big enemy or a group of enemies that have a morale rank that's significantly higher than yours. For example, at the beginning of this level, we encounter this tiger. It's got level 10 morale, but if I want to run past it and run away, I can use this area as a shortcut to progress much further. Or I can take on the challenge of facing something 10 levels above me, which will be very hard because it'll deal a lot of damage and I won't deal as much, but then, you know, shoot my morale up pretty early in that level. Say the final boss is morale rank 20, you could work yours up to 25. Now that fight's going to be significantly easier. I find that if I'm 5 levels below something, it's going to make something fairly challenging but doable. If I'm 10 levels below something or around that, it's going to be a significant real challenge. If I'm even 5 levels above any enemy, it makes it so I can kind of just spam my abilities and just destroy them. But there's another aspect to morale called fortified morale. Basically, as you go through the level, you'll find mini flag spots or full flag spots. Full flags are where you can rest, level up, and basically secure yourself, travel, and do other things. You could imagine those as like bonfires or grace in the Souls games. But then the mini flags basically allow you to gain a level or 2 of morale, but then also fortify. So every flag that you place on a level means your morale is now raised and also fortified. Let's say your fortified morale is at 5, morale will no longer go below 5 because it's fortified at 5. Therefore, it's really worth exploring levels. Killing lots of enemies to raise your morale, but also find all the flags. You can check the amount of full flags and mini flags at the top right that are on that level in that area, how many you've actually found so far, and what your current fortified morale is. This gives you a nice idea that, hey, hang on, I maybe should explore this area a bit more because I've missed a flag somewhere. Having enough fortified morale before going into like the final boss fight of a level is a really good idea, because if it goes wrong and then you lose all your morale, the fight suddenly becomes way too hard. That sucks. If you're up for the challenge, you can intentionally do that, but understanding how this actually works means you're going to have a much better experience. Otherwise, you might fight bosses 5 or 10 levels below it and feel like the balance of this game is just terrible because you're doing that. So yeah, there's quite a bit to morale, and it certainly impacts all of the gameplay, so understanding it should help you. Next, let's talk about leveling, because it can be kind of overwhelming. There's a lot to consider, and each level gives you different things. So by going to one of these main battle flags, you will be able to level up, as I'm sure you know. But you have the 5 virtues: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Now these actually affect different things. The description tells you something. For example, wood virtue affects your HP and the amount of spirit loss when attacked. But it also does a lot more than that. By going to our inventory, we can find usable items like genuine chi clots. This can give us a nice amount of chi, which is the resource we use to level up. And you can see now at the bottom left, the icon is actually glowing yellow. This tells me I have enough chi to level up. Now I can show you what actually happens when you level these things. So for the sake of of example, we're going to go with Wood Virtue. This will raise my health by 7. You can see at the right what it's actually going to do. 7 hit points. Wood Virtue affects my HP, obviously, but the truth is, every virtue does. As I try to level Fire, I actually get 3 health hit points. So don't be confused or, well, lied to in that this is the only thing that will raise your health. Any level of anything will give you health points. But as you can see, the other virtues only give you 3. It's just that Wood Virtue gives you the most. So my beginner tip to you is level Wood Virtue aggressively to start with. You start with so little health that any critical attack will likely one-shot you. Getting to say 5 or 10 pretty much ASAP is going to be a really important thing so that you're not being one-shot by mechanics and so you have a bit more survivability about you. Now Fire Virtue is kind of a melee offensive option. It says that it affects the amount of spirit gained when attacking and the amount of spirit consumed by martial arts. And as you can see, I still get 3 health here. You're going to see that my attack on spirit gain rate goes up as it says. What that means is as I attack, I build spirit faster. And then using martial arts uses less spirit, which is very nice. Next is Earth Virtue, which says it affects the equipment weight limit and the amount of spirit gained when deflecting an attack. This is a really important virtue because there's something that the game just doesn't tell you that you absolutely need to know. When I have my weapons out and I go to counter, I'm going to counter. As you can see, I bring the weapons out and I use them in that dodge. When we look at our equipment, you can see what my equipment weight actually is at 80%. Let's take a chest piece and put something much heavier on, getting myself up over into the red. See that? 111% weight. I am now overweight, as shown by that red. And when I try to roll, you'll see that, well, it's just a very expensive roll and it's not as effective. But very, very importantly, which I don't believe the game tells me at any point, if I try to counter, I can't. He will roll, so consuming tons of spirit, but I cannot counter. So the moment that you're overweight, you won't be able to counter anymore. And this is something I experienced in my gameplay, not knowing that being overweight means you literally can't counter. So if you want to get yourself, say, some extra equipment or better protection, then I would really recommend you level Earth because it does indeed improve your equipment weight by a reasonable amount. Next is Metal Virtue. This affects the duration that a high level of spirit can be maintained for and the spirit consumed by wizardry spells. Quite an interesting one. When we have spirit, it lasts longer. As you'll find when you're first playing, your spirit, when you gain it, actually evaporates if you don't use it very quickly. This is what you level to help combat that. It also, as it says, will make your wizardry spells slightly cheaper to use. Lastly, then we have Water Virtue, which says that it affects how easily enemies can detect you, which is stealth, and the amount of spirit consumed when deflecting. So overall, I recommend you level Wood Virtue first, get it to a nice healthy level, maybe 10, so that you're not getting one shot anymore. Get your Earth Virtue up so that you can wear proper equipment. Then ask yourself, are you going to be using more magic or are you going to be using more martial arts in your general gameplay? And then level Fire or Metal depending on that. Then for utility, always consider Water on those off levels when you're not sure and it might improve your melee attack power. Next, we should talk about the details of equipment, be that weapons or armor, because this system is a bit overwhelming at first, and you may find that you're getting basically an armor drop or a weapon drop nearly every enemy you kill or pick up anything. I like to sort it so that we see the rarity at the top, so my highest 4-star weapons here, then 3-star. Weapons come with their default stats, so their current attack power, their spirit stats, which special effects they have, so these are the 2 martial arts you will find on these bronze dual swords. But even in this case, as you can see, we have another set of bronze dual swords which have totally different martial arts on them and different stats, even though they're both 4 stars. So you will get the same copy of weapons and armor, and they will have different skills and abilities. What we care about here, though, is the 4 skill slots that are available. There's kind of an inherent skill that the weapon's just going to have, so this one has spirit gain, but then we have 3 that we can mess with under that. So in this case, I have better damage to enemies with heaviness, lightning attack power up, and positive effects, so buffs, they last longer too. We can even pull up the list of skills and learn what these things actually do. So how do you make an ideal weapon when you're getting loads of them? You're going to need the blacksmith, and you're going to need to make it to the village, the hub, progressing the story for a few hours before you can actually do this. This is where we're going to unlock embedment, which is a really important way to transfer your skills. So if I select the weapon that I'm actually using and choose the embedding slots, you can see that I'm able to look at these. What I can do is extract these skills in exchange for dual fragments. I'll get 3 in this case on this skill. Let's take a look at a weapon that I don't really care about, choose an embedding slot, and then we have these 3. So I don't really care about this weapon, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the skills on it that I don't really care about, and I'm going to extract them and get those jewels to work with. Then what I can do now these 2 slots are empty is I can put on a skill of my choice. As you can see, there's quite a roster of different skills, really basic, really good ones like damage dealt, melee attack damage. These are things I would recommend, but you will find that there are skills you're not able to put in because these require a special resource. Like just straight improving the melee attack power by 15 is obviously a big deal, and that's why it's a more valued, higher level skill. To get those, you're going to need to find a weapon that has that on it. So here we have Cavalry Halberd here, and that actually has one, this 3rd one down. You'll also find the same thing with armor then. So we have special effects here, the skill list of the different armors that I'm wearing, and we can mess with those in much the same way. So in this case, I'm not too bothered about ice resistance, so let's take that off my chest piece. We'll put something else on that's going to be much more relevant to me. If you're not sure though, I would always recommend just straight health. It's always going to be a good thing because it means you'll die less and be able to take more hits. Lastly, for the things I think you need to know as a beginner, it's to do with Wizardry. And anytime you can just go to one of the main flags, the battle flags, and go to your Wizardry spell options. Here we can choose to learn new Wizardry spells or equip the ones that we have unlocked. As you progress the game and level up, you will unlock new Wizardry spell slots or the ability to unlock them. As you can see, with my wood phase spells, I have 3 that I could unlock right now. So I could unlock up to 3 right now at this exact moment. Whereas with fire, I can unlock 4, I could up to 6 with earth, and I've got 7 in water and metal ready to go. Then there's these numbers under the actual skill itself. We need 2 of something here, 7 of something there, and 756 of something else. Basically, here we need 2 wood virtue to be able to cast this spell. We're going to need 7 morale to be able to cast this spell, and 756 spirit to cast this spell. You can look at the bottom left what I've actually leveled. So I have 15 levels in wood virtue, so I obviously have more than 2, and I'm good to go on that. I'll need to progress the level and actually reach level 7 morale and higher to be able to cast this spell though at any one point. And 756 spirit is a fairly expensive spell, meaning I won't be able to spam this one. There are spells that require 0 levels in morale though, such as absorb vitality, which is a nice lifesteal effect. So what I recommend you do is at the beginning of a level you set your wizardry spells to ones that you're going to use very early in that level. So things at 3 or 0 are going to be logical because you'll be able to use them immediately, gaining their benefits and helping you in the early stages of a level. As soon as you reach over 5 and 7 and so on, then it's time to equip some heavier hitters. But naturally, as you play for a level, you'll eventually come across, say, a second battle flag with high enough morale to equip some of those heavier magic options. But there you have it. That is my overview of some of the beginning information and tips that I think you guys should know going into your own Wolong playthroughs. Like I said, this game can be pretty brutal with the amount of information you have to take in, and how I feel it's kind of vaguely or not even remotely explained, like the fact that when you're overweight, you can't counter anymore. Knowing these things, having an awareness of it, should make your playthrough a lot smoother as you understand these systems and can make the best use of them. If you have any tips not included in this video that might help other new players, then drop it in the comments. You might help someone. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.